This is Kimberly Quinn, host of the Mindcraft podcast, and I can't tell you how much fun I have had doing this podcast. I started when the world closed over the pandemic in an attempt to spread some positivity out there and give people some strategies to enhance their own well-being and reduce anxiety and all of that. Now, 2 years later, we're still going strong and now listened to by 52 countries across the world. And I've even helped some of my students get going with their own podcasts. It's super easy to do. And I'll tell you, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. I'll just explain for you. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It is a ball. Start today. Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another, what I hope to be a delightful episode, Minecraft episode. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. In Vermont right now, it's kind of like a drizzly, contemplative, misty fall day where it's kind of almost looking November-ish. Leaves are starting to fall off. It looks like a George Winston CD. I know people don't listen to CDs too much anymore. If you know George Winston, Fall into Winter, it looks just like that today. It's just very cozy. And so what I'd like to talk with you today about is paying attention to the flow of your life. I'm really into, this whole being in receptive mode, and I'm inspired by lots of people. But at this minute, I'm inspired by Wayne Dyer, and he's one of my greatest teachers. Sadly, he passed in, I think it was 2015. Wow, he's made so much of a difference for so many people across the world. Anyway, his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, is based on the wisdom of the Tao. I think he wrote over 40 books, but this is one that I really, really like. So the wisdom of the Tao. So Wayne starts out by saying, look at what you desire to bring into your life. Then in the context of this verse, which actually I didn't read, but I will in a minute, feel grateful for everything you encounter. Express gratitude by riding the flow of your existence and allowing it to be your ally. See, this is huge. So many people, I think, just don't realize that it's something we come into. It's not with judgment. We come into. I think, quite honestly, this is largely what midlife is for, is to really kind of understand that it's kind of like spinning our wheels and getting nowhere. We don't have to do that. It's kind of really like the less we spin, the less we struggle, and the easier the answers kind of land in our laps. And it's all about listening to this inner voice. So the 32nd verse of the Tao, I'm not going to read the whole thing, just the last few lines. It says, rivers and streams are born of the ocean, and all creation is born of the Tao. Just as all water flows back to become the ocean, all creation flows back to become the Tao. So Wayne here is talking about, when we sit back for a second and contemplate, what is your heart's desire? What do you really desire for yourself? Because I think people often get confused with manifestation too, right? There's all kinds of stuff out there about manifestation. Some of it can seem a little out there, with astrology and all kinds of stuff like that. I'm not about any of that at all. I'm about neurons and cognitive psychology. And there's a whole lot of truth in the thoughts. It's a fact that the thoughts we allow expand. So once we really get that we are literally turning thoughts into things every single day, we pay a whole lot more attention to what we're allowing to manifest. In fact, I did an episode earlier on the Minecraft YouTube about, I was inspired just by watching this house get built. When I drive up to take Giovanni to the woods, this house is being built, and obviously it started with the foundation, and now it's all completely framed. And to just think, this is what we're talking about here, thoughts to things, that the person who wanted to build the house had to visualize this first. First, my heart's desire is to have this home, and it has a spectacular view. So they had to envision it first. Then they had to get an architect and a builder. So just those brain cells turned into that house. No differently than J.K. Rowling, envisioned, the whole Harry Potter book series, which then the filmmakers then envisioned what she wrote and turned it into the thing of the movies. I mean, the brain is just so powerful. The mind is so powerful. So Wayne's talking about your heart's desires, what we want to bring into our life. This doesn't mean just like the material thing of, oh, I want to visualize a bicycle and it'll land in the yard. Well, not if you don't make the effort, it isn't going to, right? Manifestation attracts into our lives who we are. It attracts. So it's about, being, I wanted to say angelic. Maybe that's a stretch, but really that's what it's about, is being authentic. And we attract what we put out there, right? So then I think I'm going to start this over. Okay, so look at what you desire to bring into your life. Then, in the context of this sweet verse, feel grateful for everything you encounter. Okay, so the gratitude, we just want that gratitude to ooze out of every single pore, because this is what the universe responds to. If we're not grateful for whatever it is, even the smallest things, we found $5 on the ground. Okay, if we're not grateful for the smallest things, the universe says, well, they can't handle what I've already given, so why give them more, kind of thing. So then Wayne says, express gratitude by riding the flow of your existence and allowing it to be your ally. So this is about being in a place of non-resistance. Abraham Hicks talks about this a lot, and Wayne Dyer actually talks about Abraham a lot. So the fact is, our life is our ally. This gift of life we've been given is our ally. When we get into resisting and being in this place of digging our claws in and trying to have our own, trying to be in charge of things and make it go how we want, it just messes things up for us. And I don't think people get that. So Wayne continues and says, you can steer while still enjoying this glorious ride. So I love that. I picture a go-kart. I made one when I was about 10. And I remember it had no motor, but it had I steered it with my feet and also a rope with this. I think I used an old ski or an old something that went across, held the wheels together. Then on the outside of the wheels, I could steer it with my feet, which I went sailing downhill, and then I would steer it into the grass so I could stop. Well, that visual actually works for here, because we're enjoying the thrill of the ride. We're just steering, as we go along. So, but we don't want to elect to fight it. We want to do the ride we've been given, steer a little bit, right? Smell the roses, but we don't want to fight it. He says, because if you fight it, you'll ultimately get pulled under by its current, or in my case, go sailing off at a rapid warp speed, go sailing off the go-kart into the gravel. We don't want that either. Or like a sled, picture a sled, because I steered the go-kart similarly to how we steer a flexible flyer with your feet. So we want to steer, but we don't want to resist, right? So then the more you push against it, the more resistance you create. Resistance is just not what we want. We want smooth. We want a place of non-resistance. This is when we know we are in alignment, when it all feels just right. So here's the thing. We've got to really be, as Abraham Hicks says, tapped in, tuned in, turned on. We've got to be listening. And once you get into this place of being in receptive mode, it's just a wonderful place to be. It's kind of like the volume is turned up on life. I don't know what a better way to say it. You can just hear things you couldn't hear before. Kind of like you tune into the cicadas or I almost feel like you can, almost hear an ant walking across the floor, because when you're in this receptive mode, you can just hear, you start to notice people talking, that God, source, higher power, creator of all things, universe, however you want to say, hear, let's just say the universe, source, talking through people. You really get it. Like, wow, I just put this out there this morning, and this person who I've never seen before, or you have seen before, shows up, stops in your office and says, hey, did you see there's a lecture coming on Friday? Did you want to go? And you're like, oh my God, I was just thinking about this. Or, I mean, it's crazy how once you're in receptive mode, you could even see the answers up on a billboard, or I'm not a huge fan of billboards. Thankfully, they don't allow them in Vermont. or even worse, neon signs like in Vegas. And all of a sudden, like there's just what you were looking for. Or somebody offers to loan you a book and, hey, you might like this. You're like, oh my God, I was just thinking about this. So it's so important to be aware of anything that's directing you toward the activities that truly ignite your passion. If events seem to be taking you in a new direction in your work, for instance, or signs point to changing your job or location, pay attention with an exclamation point. Don't get pulled under by refusing to budge and continuing a familiar, frustrating routine, and then justify your fear of change. Justify this with your fear of change. So many times, which just honestly saddens me so much, people just want to play it safe. They've got the paycheck, same. People, same. Even if they don't really care for these people, I'm not saying they don't like the people, but they're not like, gee, I can't wait to, I'm meeting so and so for lunch on Thursday. Or I'm just excited, and we can continue our conversation on that podcast we both listen to, or whatever like that. And they just play it safe. And I mean, I certainly, and if you're living just for the weekend, definitely time to start listening to the whispers, as Oprah says, that inner voice, because your life minutes, our life minutes are not, they're finite, right? And especially at 57, there's far fewer life minutes in front of you than behind you. Life is too short, is what I'm saying. So if you're living just to play on the weekend, you are not in alignment whatsoever. It's not said with judgment. It's just said as an observation, because every day we want, and that's a big word, every, okay? It doesn't mean we don't have a bad moment here and there, but you hopefully want to wake up charged to do whatever it is you're doing, whether you're getting paid for it or not. Okay, and then he says, don't get pulled under. Okay, recognize the Tao energy coursing through your life and quit fighting your calling. It's important to say that the calling is 2 tiers higher than the job, okay? Not to poo-poo a tenacious work ethic, because I'm a huge fan of work ethic, and that tenacious work ethic can walk right through right through and up to your calling. A job, however, is like the bottom tier. It's just about the money. Again, it doesn't mean you're miserable or anything, but it's not usually where the growth is. You might be content, money, whatever. Next is career, which usually involves education and or training. So there's more investment. Usually it's longer lasting because of this. Usually it's more exciting because of this, because you've invested somehow, some way. Doesn't necessarily mean college. It can be any of the trades, electric, plumbing, any of the craftsman type things, like, construction, and, let's say, putting in mosaic tile or whatever, the military, firefighters, policemen, all the training they go through, But there's an investment because it's a longer lasting, thing. And then top tier is your calling. And that means that you are tapped in, tuned in, turned on, because you are hearing and you are in alignment with exactly what you were meant to do on this earth, your own authentic purpose, which is loaded with meaning. So in Wayne's book, Change Your Thoughts to Change Your Life, which is about living the wisdom of the Tao, he talks about Lao Tzu, right? The author of the Tao, who urges you to know when to stop driving yourself, advising you to instead jump into the oneness and avoid all manner of difficulties that he calls your peril. Flow with the Tao in everything you do. Give up the need to be in charge, which is just your ego working overtime. And we know that the ego is the evil twin of your authentic self, right? Wayne says you cannot force the Tao. Let it carry you by relaxing into it with trust and faith. Regardless of whatever if you have a religion, it all gels. And I think those of you who listen to the Minecraft YouTube and also this podcast know that I do not have conversations about religion. If you want to make it work for you and work all this in there, you go right ahead, because that'll just enhance and enrich, your own experience. We're talking about the spirituality, and it's not ironic. Maybe it is ironic. I don't know. Anyway, that the major religions in the world are saying the same thing anyway. They're all saying the same thing. It's just different wording, different context, really. But anyway, so when talking about paying attention to the flow of your life, we are talking about that divine connection, that infinite intelligence, that infinite creativity, that infinite source of love and compassion in all things good that bond us together. And Wayne says, oh, here's the thing. Wayne says this too frequently, as does Oprah, my favorite. She and I are very close friends. She just isn't aware. And also Brene Brown's in our friendship circle, Abraham Hicks. They're all people are just all saying the same thing. Aaron Doughty says the same things. So this connection, and I don't use the word impossible very often since it's such a polarized word. And that said, it is a fact that you just cannot be in alignment with what you're meant to do on this earth if you don't embrace the divine connection. Acknowledge it, know that it connects all of us, regardless of how you label it, in order to find your authentic high vibe self. And that box has to be checked. So anyway, Wayne says, remind yourself that you don't have to be in charge, that in fact, it's impossible for you to be in charge. My good friend Bjarne, and if you're listening, Bjarne, I love you and miss you so much. He's off traveling around. Oh, he travels all over the world, which is a great thing. He's a true free spirit. He talks a lot about how control is just such an illusion. It really is. And the minute we kind of surrender this to our higher power, God's source with a capital S, the universe, whatever, because the universe has this planned out for us. And when we learn to ride the wave, of course, we don't want to do that. It's counterintuitive. We want to dig in with our claws and control people and situations. And that this party I've planned for, a year from next Tuesday has to go this way. I mean, how many stories are there of weddings where it's planned right down to the T and then other things happen? I love that our daughter Caitlin went to her friend's wedding, who's an Olympian, actually. Just a little fun fact for the podcast episode. And they're farmers, and I love when our daughter came home and talked about how it was outside and everything, and dairy farmers. And right when they said I do, you couldn't have scripted cows better. You can't script cows at all, right? They just did this huge moo, like in favor of the whole thing. It was wild. And you can plan all you want, but the thing is, life unfolds as it's meant to unfold. So then Wayne continues. He says, the nameless force, which Lao Tzu calls the Tao, moves everything. So your continual argument with it only causes dissatisfaction. Each day, practice letting go and seeing where you're directed. Take note of who shows up and when. Observe the strange coincidences. That's in quotes. Observe the strange coincidences. I love how Wayne says coincide. They're just things coinciding, and that seem to collaborate with fate and in some way steer you in a new direction. This is where I want to bring up my good friend Tom, who's also my colleague at Champlain, and I guess I'll know if he's listening or not. He wrote his dissertation on synchronicity. That's not easy to do if you think of research being, so wanting to prove things. And wow, he and I have talked about this topic so much, and paying attention to the green lights, which fits exactly with what we're talking about. This is about, Oprah says, listen to the whispers. Okay. My friend Tom says, watch for the green lights. When they line up, follow the green lights, and by how you feel. Oprah says that too. By how you feel when you're on the right track, because you feel good, not in a just drink a beer way, in an authentic way. You just know. It's kind of like, I just was saying to Tom about a week ago, how our house, which I'm currently in at this minute, 20 years ago or whatever, 21 years ago, and my husband's like, oh my God, the real estate agent must have loved you, because I literally walked in and said, we have to have it. It's perfect. I didn't even see the rooms. I didn't see anything. It just felt, I did see the view because that was in front of us, but I just knew it was right. And we have and then had 5 kids. There were only 3 bedrooms. I thought the girls were going to kill each other within a week, which we changed that pretty quickly. But from the front, the house didn't look big enough for us. But as it turned out, it was built into a hill, and the rest of the house was under us. But I didn't even see the downstairs before I said, I got to have it, because it was this wave. It was just this wave of meant to be. I don't even know how to say it. It wasn't, because actually the rugs were white, which are awful. It had horrible, I almost said wrapping paper, horrible, Christmassy wallpaper. And I'm a big fan of Christmas, just not 365 days a year. Because it was a second home for these people, believe it or not. And anyways, it was meant to be electricity that rolled through me. So then Wayne says, keep track of situations that occur spontaneously or out of the realm of your control. I mean, how many times have we just bumped into people? It's just, I've had so many serendipitous, synchronistic, my life's been like that. And I don't even doubt it. I don't know if I ever did, but I don't. In fact, I ran into a friend in the dead center of Manhattan one time. That's not easy to do, unless you live in the same neighborhood, I guess. But it happens all of the time to me. So then to lastly here, okay, he says, we're paying attention to the flow of our life. That is the whole point of this podcast episode, right? Which I'm telling you, we are all works in progress, and I am too. So please understand when I say share stuff about what I'm doing, it's not in any kind of a braggy way. I don't even like people like that. It's in a way of I'm a is it walk the talk? Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do kind of person. So I am like hyper vigilant of my flow, riding that high flying disc as much as possible. I do all the visualization, all of it. So when Wayne talks about paying attention to the flow of your life and also looking for a new joyous feeling within you, and Oprah says it too, like I just said earlier, you know by how you feel. Flow is not anything you can talk yourself into. It's because it's authentic. It happens. It's an energy thing. So Wayne says, as you move in the direction of quote unquote loosening the leash, so to speak, you'll become keenly aware of the exhilaration of the Tao flowing through you. Begin to see what passions are stirred up as you allow the ride to be directed by your source rather than the ego. Remember that the ego is the evil twin of the authentic self. And the authentic self is all about that divine connection in you. We are that divine connection, right? All connected together. These joyous feelings are clues that you're beginning to harmonize with what Lao Tzu calls your, in brackets, own goodness. I love that. Your enthusiastic inner receptivity is your reminder that all is perfect. So trust that energy. So there you go. Pay attention to the flow of your life and be in receptive mode, because abundance, the universe or source or however you want to label it, is infinite. So you got to listen to that inner voice to navigate in your life and just open those arms wide to accept everything that's meant to happen for you. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from a drizzly, beautiful, contemplative northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.